Are we on?
Black and blue, I crawl along the wreckage of what now is gone. Back to you to fight another day. I'll go on and on and on and on. I'll face it, the demons I created with every last part of me. The pain for pain, and I'll go on and on and on and on. Black and blue, I crawl to you. Black and blue, I crawl to you.
Alright, we're on the air.
Hello and welcome to SmackDown. This is a thing where me and Eli, but mostly Eli, will talk about Playhouse Disney / Disney Junior stuff. But before we start, I'm gonna say this right now before YouTube's algorithm decides to bury us in the dust. Despite us talking about kid-friendly TV shows, this is not a kid-friendly video. Do not show this to your kids. We are bad influences, and we swear profusely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to be the one swearing, so but they will.
Yeah, pretty much.
Whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah. So, is my screen share coming in good?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Well, let me get in.
Affirmative.
Yeah, it's probably good for you guys, but it's loading for me. But that's just because my internet sucks.
Yeah. So I guess we're starting now.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
So who should go first?
You.
All right. Well, first off, let me just say that Playhouse Disney, boy, it was, I grew up with Playhouse Disney. It was a big part of my childhood for sure. And some of the good old, and I'm glad because, growing up during the good old days of what was on Playhouse Disney, and of course before it became Disney Junior and, Playhouse Disney / Disney Channel. So, yeah, and Playhouse Disney began around the late 1990s.
Yeah.
It was around 1997, and Bear in the Big Blue House was the very first ever Playhouse Disney show.
Hey, can I give a bit more background on the history of Playhouse Disney first?
Sure,
yeah, in 1997, basically, Aunt Sweeney became the CEO of Disney Channel, and she eventually divided up Disney Channel into different blocks. The first one was Playhouse Disney, and then there was Zoog, and then there was Full Disney, but Playhouse Disney is the focus of this video. That's why you clicked on it, so that's my quick bit.
Stuff, yes.
Yeah, that's why I clicked on it.
Right.
Yeah, so that's my quick little thing about the history. So go on about Bear in Big Blue.
Yeah, Bear in the Big Blue House. It is a Jim Henson property, believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is, but as of now, it's now owned by Disney, along of course with the Muppets.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some Henson stuff that they don't own, like the Dark Crystal and Fraggle Rock. And I think Alf. Oh, wait, no, Alf's someone else. Never mind.
yeah. Alf has no association, has no involvement with the Muppets whatsoever.
Yeah, Alf is owned by Alf.
Exactly. That's the thing, because, Jim Henson still owns Fraggle Rock, the Dark Crystal. Disney owns Bear in the Big Blue House. They own the Muppets, the Muppets themselves. And I think, but this too is also on Disney+. I'm surprised that Bear in the Big Blue House has not been on Disney+, but I'm sure eventually it will be. But the Dinosaur Show by the Jim Henson Company, I'm pretty sure that too is now owned by Disney, I want to say. But, and Sesame Workshop has complete ownership of the Sesame Street Muppets and the show itself. So, few companies owning different versions of the Muppets. You get the idea. But for Bear in the Big Blue House, at the time, because with alongside with Disney, but with the Jim Henson Company and Bear in the Big Blue House. As I did look this up, even before we started, that Bear in the Big Blue House was the first ever Playhouse Disney show, and that how it all began. And it was just Bear in the Big Blue House, just a kind and warm, loving show, all that kind of stuff, and just. I mean, Bear in the Big Blue House, I grew up with this, and I remember like listening, the songs and watching the episodes, and for the first 3 seasons of Bear in the Big Blue House, like it of course was centered entirely, in the Big Blue House. But when it came to season 4, that's when the creator of Bear in the Big Blue House realized that, after 3 years of the show, like, the viewers were growing up, and things changed for Bear in the Big Blue House. Now, instead of just being there at the Big Blue House, this time it was Woodland Valley. So that's when season 4 began of Woodland Valley, and yeah. But then, of course, eventually when Bear in the Big Blue House came to an end, like, well, it had its run, and it's a shame, but you know what? You never know. Maybe Disney could reboot it or anything like that. Even Noel McNeil, who was the puppeteer and voice of Bear, he'd been asked about that, and I guess, and to his response, maybe they will reboot it or just stuff like that. But does anybody do any of you guys have anything to say on Bear in the Big Blue House?
Yeah, I remember liking it a bit, but I remember liking it a bit, but here's the thing, I don't really remember anything about it. I mean, it's one of those shows where I don't think it's that memorable per se, in my opinion, but I do remember liking the show. So, but I don't really have anything to say beyond that.
Right.
It was really memorable as a show of its time. The show itself was famous for teaching things that you don't really expect to be taught in a kid's show. Like, in the early seasons, Tutter the Mouse learned about potty training, and around the midpoint between the Blue House season and the Woodland Valley stuff, they taught about, traumatic moments. Like, they came home to the Big Blue House one day to find that a tree came down and destroyed a good chunk of their library, so they had to cope with that. What else? There were some really famous people in that cast. The Moon, Luna, was voiced by Lynn Thigpen, who you may also remember as the Chief from Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. And the Big Bear himself became a big pop culture icon. You could see him on talk shows at the time doing the Bear Cha-Cha-Cha, and he was even one of the squares on Hollywood Squares at one point.
Oh yeah. There was
round about the time the show ended, there was also a spin-off that played in the interstitials called Breakfast with Bear, where Bear would go to kids' houses and they would share their morning routine with him.
Yeah, well, okay, now that you say it, I have to show the image of Breakfast with Bear, so...
Yeah, and one more thing about Bear and Big Blue while I move on. Cartoon Network often uses Big Bear and the Big Blue House in its white piece. There. That's all I have to say about Bear and the Big Blue House before I move on.
Okay, I was just gonna quickly ask, still, how's my screen share looking?
Perfect.
Looks good.
Okay, can we, okay. Again, as I said, we might have to just go play it by ear because of how I have the pictures in line, as you just saw, because I had to scroll through and get to the Breakfast with Bear image.
Yeah, so you should scroll... So what you should do is scroll through back to Bear and the Big Blue House and then flip then.
Flip the next one.
Alright. Okay. Alright, okay, so are we done on Bear and the Big Blue House?
Yes.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, but there's one thing you forgot to mention. Because if you heard what I said, that Bear was, because after what Michael said about Bear, making appearances, I said this: Bear was at the time just everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I remember.
Making.
Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just. I don't mean to interrupt, but I was just gonna say because I was just gonna say that Bear made a lot of appearances. Like, well, when it came to say Hollywood Squares, he appeared on Donnie and Marie during the holidays, and he appeared at London. I want to say, yeah, and it was for like a musical video or something. The Bear Cha Cha Cha, and also fun fact. The Disney company, and just I'll go ahead. Before we come back to you to Sam, I was going to mention this. At the time, the Disney company were wondering if Bear would be popular in the parks, specifically, of course, at the time being called MGM Studios, and even Noel McNeil was wondering about that too. And okay, question for both of you: are you familiar with the YouTube channel Defunct Land?
Yes, I am familiar with
Yes.
the YouTube channel Defunct Land. I actually remember watching his episode on Bear in the Playhouse.
Okay, but did you watch? Have
Yeah, me
you watched any of his podcast interviews?
I've
No.
checked out a few minutes of them, but I've never watched any of the podcast ones, like all the way
Yeah,
through.
well, they're pretty good, and I've watched a couple of them. But one of my favorites, what I'm talking about, he interviewed Noel McNeil, who was the puppeteer / voice of Bear. And in the interview, according to Noel McNeil, again, as I said, the Disney company, and including Noel McNeil himself, were wondering if Bear would be popular at the parks, and again, specifically at the time being called MGM Studios. And around New Year's Eve, Noel McNeil, along with his mother and wife, they took a trip to Disney, and he contacted the people at the Henson Company, to bring Bear down and see if this could work, how Bear can work in the parks. And the bear costume was brought down. Noel McNeil stepped out as Bear, and did a little meet and greet, waved to people, and they went up to Bear, and he was interacting and talking with them. And something funny about this, that Noel McNeil, in the story, Noel McNeil said that a Disney cast member walked up to Bear and, calmly and very politely whispered to him, "You're not allowed to talk." And this is Noel McNeil talking. Noel McNeil, according to Noel McNeil, as Bear, he was in character. Bear turned to the cast member and said, "Yes, I can." And the cast member was like, "No, you're not allowed to talk." And Bear just put his hand on his shoulder and was like, "No, really, I really am allowed." And that's when the Henson people came up to the cast member and said, "No, this is Bear. This is Bear himself." And oh, and it seemed like, Bear seemed to work really great in the parks. And that's when the idea came of maybe, what if there would be a live show for Bear, not an attraction or anything, but a live show. And thus there was a mall tour of Bear in the Big Blue House live, and according to Noel McNeil, Disney just bought it, and then they started putting Bear for a live show. But I want to get to that later, because I kind of because I have these pictures in order. I don't want to have to keep going back and forth. But anyways, what was it that you were going to talk about to Sim? Because something else about Bear?
Nothing. I was about to say, I said before, that Cartoon Lover 98 would often use Bear in the Big Blue House in his white TPs, and that was what I was about to say, and I kind of got that out there before this. So basically, I don't have anything to say anymore. I said my piece.
Okay. All right. I mean, just making sure, but in case you had forgotten what you were going to say, just All right, but anyways, moving on. So the next, well, here's the thing, because I'm not really sure. I guess because Playhouse Disney started with 4 shows, and one of the other 3 shows, since we after Bear, the other 3 shows, then would come. Then there would also be Roly Poly Oly. So if anybody has anything to say about Roly Poly Oly, go ahead.
I don't. I do remember seeing the promo for some Roly Poly Oly super special or something. It was a TV movie on various Disney DVDs, but I don't remember watching the show at all.
Okay. What about you, Michael?
I kind of remember it, but I don't remember everything about it. The most vivid thing I can remember is I think it was a parallel to teaching kids about swearing, because the dad shouted like "dingly dangly doodle" as an expletive, and I guess he didn't want the kids to hear it or something.
I don't remember that.
I just think I remember that.
Nope. Okay.
I think he stubbed his toe or something.
Oh, okay. Well, what I have to say about Roly Poly Oly is this: that because man, I loved Roly Poly Oly. Just it was and straight from William Joyce. He's a book author and such. Like I can name a few things that he's done, other works that he's done. Blue Skies Robots, Meet the Robinsons. That's a book. He wrote a book of. He was the author of Meet the Robinsons, and thus Disney's adaptation of that story. There was also another book he had written, and which would become a movie, DreamWorks' Rise of the Guardians. But yeah, so William Joyce, Roly Poly Oly being one of his creations and would become a show, and thus be on Disney, Playhouse Disney. And I'm glad to see that Roly Poly Oly is now on Disney Plus. That's great. And another thing is, whenever it's going to happen, apparently I heard about this. This was probably 2 years ago. It was right before, I guess, 2020 came to an end, where apparently we were getting new episodes of Roly Poly Oly. But I don't know. There hasn't been any update about that. But maybe, who knows? At this point. But anyway, so Roly Poly Oly, God, it had a buttload of episodes, and it had 2 movies. Roly Poly Oly, The Great Defender, and there was another one. I forget the title, but it had to do with these 2 orphaned baby bots. One that's pinkish and one that's blue, and a couple of times, starting with The Great Defender, there was Lumius Maximus, and in that one, The Great Defender, he was voiced by James Woods. But he of course had a different voice later on. It worked pretty good. And there was other characters like Space Boy and the Wally Jollies and the little greens, couple characters in space, and even Slanky Clanky, the robot version of Santa Claus. Roly Poly Oly's own Santa Claus, basically. And some of the planets, there was the ice cream planet and bunch of others, and I can say a couple of episodes that I can recall. There was one episode where, in fact, I even kind of gave this a watch not too long ago. It was a while back, where it was one where the house was flooded, and there was another one where.
Oh, I remember that one.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, the house being flooded because a little drip in the sink, it was leaking, and then the dad set his toolbox on the drain cover for the whole house, so the entire house was filled with water.
Right. And then there was one where both Oly and Oly and Billy and Screwy, they get there's this machine that goes wrong, and they get their hands are magnetized. I remember that one. And another one with Gloomius Maximus where he wants to have fun, and he steals what's in the park. There's that one, and a couple of even a couple of times where what was that? There was this one square bot who was a singer, and let's do the twirl, yeah, baby. I remember there were a couple of those, and when we get the appearance of Space Boy, etc., etc. But yeah, so Roly Poly Oly was just an amazing show, a memorable kid show, and for Playhouse Disney. So there you go. So the third, another show at around the time when Playhouse Disney started, from Bear and Roly Poly Oly, there was PB&J Otter.
I actually barely even know what that is.
Well, basically, here's to put it this. An otter family and a bunch of other animals that the picture is showing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so otters and a bunch of other animals that you see, from raccoons, geese, whatever, they all live in boat houses, and they just have a bunch of adventures and stuff like that. And sometimes they would have this moment where use your noodle and do the noodle dance, and they would try to think of something. I got it, and let's do the noodle dance, blah blah blah. So I don't know. I have a little memory of watching PB&J Otter, and just it was another great show on Playhouse Disney, and I don't know. I mean, I'm surprised that this has not been on Disney Plus yet, but who knows? Maybe they're going to. Okay, Michael, you have nothing to say on PB&J Otter?
Literally all I have is, like, remembering how stupid I was as a kid. Like, I remember, like, the red one was named PB, the purple one was named J. I was just looking at the screen like, which one's named Otter?
Okay.
Yeah, because I was, like, really stupid at the time. I didn't know the concepts of first and last names.
All right. Well, okay, so, all right. Now let's continue. So, the fourth show that started all with Playhouse Disney with the others, there was Out of the Box.
Oh my goodness,
I remember.
yes. That show is the definition of a cultural melting pot.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't even remember much about Out of the Box at all. Like, all the evidence I had of it existing as a kid was a very old promo for Playhouse Disney on a Kim Possible DVD. Like,
Oh.
yeah.
Okay.
So I never even watched the show at all.
Oh, I did for sure. I mean, what about you, Michael? Like, you don't have anything to say on Out of the Box?
Like, I love it. It's like everything Barney could have been if Barney wasn't an unlikable dinosaur dick face. Like it's got music, it's got culture represented here, and you learn some cool stuff, and everyone's having fun and into it. It doesn't feel manufactured at all.
Right.
Alright, who rang?
Yeah, I mean, who is ringing?
Sorry about that, stupid.
I didn't press it,
Oh, it's
Sorry,
you,
it's
did you?
just Discord. It's just stupid Discord.
and he hit the wrong thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyways, for me, for Out of the Box, well, here's another thing. Even if I would bring it up, like, my mom, that theme song would get stuck in my mom's head. I'm not kidding, according to her. And because the theme song's so catchy, out of the box, dun dun dun. So, I mean, yeah, it's a great song. But anyways, like, for Out of the Box, because they would have song numbers and they would do arts and crafts. And there were a couple of times where they would do stories, and they would enter into portraits, like pictures come alive, and as they sang the theme song. And the hosts, like Tony and Vivian, because they were so great in this. And as of now, like, if you're on TikTok, like, they have their own TikTok accounts, like, they're on TikTok, and so is Noel McNeil.
Hey, what?
Yes, they are.
Oh my god.
Yeah. In fact, I remember there's a video on YouTube, like, catching up with Tony and Vivian and what they're doing and such, and they seem to be doing pretty well. And and even, like, say, Out of the Box, their soundstage, like, because they were filming, Out of the Box was being filmed, like, I think it was like Bear in the Big Blue House they were filming in the same, like, buildings or whatever, like, where Bear in the Big Blue House was being filmed, and right next door to Sesame Street. So that's all I can remember. But yeah, Out of the Box was very memorable. I'm happy that, it's one of those Playhouse Disney shows that's on Disney Plus. I even watched an episode. Like, in fact, there's one that I remember so well. In fact, I remember, like, when my mom, like, recorded Playhouse Disney on a couple of VHS tapes, like, that episode was on one of the VHS tapes that my mom recorded. And that one, it had to do with stickiness, sticky, icky, gooey, blah, blah, blah. So I remember that episode very well. And even when I watched it when I watched Out of the Box on Playhouse on Disney Plus, that was the episode I watched. So I just remember it so well. Anyways, but continuing on.
I remember having taped an episode of Out of the Box, and they was, like, wearing all these different types of hats for all these different kind of things, and they got to do Chicken Little at the end. That was my jam, like, that, all that stuff.
Okay. All right. Okay, but anyways, in fact, I vaguely remember the Halloween episode. Like, I think, yeah, that's on, like, that made its way on YouTube somehow. Just, I don't know. But anyways, so continuing. So those were the 4 shows that started all with Playhouse Disney. Out of the Box, PB&J Otter, Roly Poly Oly, and Bear in the Big Blue House. But anyways, continuing. Next is another one that was a little bit, I guess, that came in a bit late. Not really, but, after the first 4 shows, and that was Stanley.
Yeah, here's my experience with Stanley. It's basically the same as my experience with Out of the Box. Like, I did not watch the show at all, and the only evidence I know of it existing was an old promo. So, yeah.
Ah, okay. Do you have anything to say about Stanley, Michael?
I remember Stanley. I remember having a PC game about Stanley. I forgot what the game itself was about, but like, yeah, I'm ready to find his stuff. But along the way, you can collect like pictures of animals and put them in the book. Yeah, you know what book I'm talking about? The book of the show.
The Great Big Book of Everything.
It's the Great Big
Book of Everything, with everything inside. See the world around us. This book's a perfect guide. I had to. But probably when we go back and watch the stream, it's probably not, our voices are not going to sing now. Yeah. But anyways, so Stanley, for me, man, I have so many good memories of this show. For example, like, episodes that I could, well, even like say I have maybe like, I think 2 or 3 DVDs of Stanley, and one of them, which actually I'm going to mention a little bit later. For Stanley itself, like some episodes I can remember, like, well, I think, yeah, this was the very first episode ever. In fact, there was a working print, like the original version of this, like a test for this, like, a test pilot of this, but the version that we would eventually get, which was Kangaroo Cleaner. There's that, and the big spill was part of that episode too. Kangaroo Cleaner, because there's a kangaroo. The big spill, like Stanley whips out an anteater, trying to have the anteater clean up a mess he's made, of making his own breakfast. He spills cereal and thinking the anteater could do it, but it can't. It doesn't, of course. It only eats ants, etc. There was also Earth Day, I want to say, and there was one, spring coming and the, groundhog being involved in the episode. Also, there was one about a butterfly, and Mars. Wait a minute. The dog and cat. Oh my God, I almost forgot. Elsie. Yeah, Elsie was the cat, and Harry was the dog. Elsie was waiting patiently for a butterfly to come out of its cocoon, and of course it does. And then there was an episode where they were preparing for Harry's birthday, and dolphin talk being involved in that episode too. I'm trying to remember. There was one. It's on YouTube as well. Like, I think there are a few batch of episodes that can be watchable on YouTube, including one where it's titled "Who's Afraid of the Dark?" and Stanley hearing noises in his room and can't sleep, and he's terrified, and owls being involved. And there's one where Dennis becomes worried because Stanley going to the pet shop and with the fish, etc., thinking, well, Dennis is no longer going to be Stanley's main fish pet, you know what I'm saying? And there was an episode where it was about baby pictures. And then, there were, probably, I think... Yeah. Anyway, so there were two Stanley, I guess, TV movies. One was The Great Big Book Adventure. Stanley's older brother Lionel accidentally gets sucked into The Great Big Book of Everything. At one point, The Great Big Book of Everything is broken, the pages fall off, and Stanley and Dennis trapped in there, all the animals in different parts of the book, locations. And then there was also Stanley's Dinosaur Roundup. I think it was one of the last things from Stanley. And John Ritter was the voice of Stanley's uncle, great uncle, I should say, great uncle Stu, who's, and he had the ranch, and it was about dinosaurs and digging up and finding and putting the pieces together of a Brachiosaurus skeleton, and so that's pretty. I still have the DVD. Yeah, I can still have some of my DVDs of Playhouse Disney stuff, including Stanley. So
hey Eli, can I have a word?
There was.
What's that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The DVDs of Playhouse Disney that I had were pretty much non-existent. I did watch Playhouse Disney shows, but most of the DVDs and VHSs I had of preschool shows were of Nick Jr. or Cartoonito. So
Okay.
that's that.
All right,
Go
but
ahead.
I think I pretty much.
Yeah. So, in regards to Stanley, I do remember vividly. There were a few episodes where he didn't touch the book at all. They just used the internet, and they have like a whole nother song for that. Now we're going along in the run of everything.
Yeah, I remember. I vaguely.
Kind of like they're trying to keep up with like the nowadays.
Yeah. But I think I pretty much said it all for Stanley. I said my part on Stanley. But anyways, so I think that's about it on Stanley. So next, oh yes, we come to the Book of Pooh. Nothing to say on the Book of Pooh?
Nope, not for me. I don't have
I've
anything to
never
say.
seen it.
Okay. I'm surprised that I actually didn't really watch. I don't know why. I don't know why, because I didn't watch the show for some reason. I don't know, because I guess when watching it on TV, it wasn't on. I didn't catch it on TV, or say when it was Playhouse Disney was recorded on VHS. As I established. But all I know is that it was the Pooh characters in puppet form and with green screen, etc. You don't see the puppeteers; they're in green screen suits, and yeah. So, and with of course the voices of the Pooh characters doing the show, from Jim Cummings and John Fielder, and the voice of Eeyore / Optimus Prime. You know what I'm talking about. And there was okay, here's the thing. We got Pooh, Piglet, Tigger, and Eeyore, Rabbit, Owl, but there was no kangaroo. And apparently, also, we also got, say, a blue bird. Was the blue bird... I don't know, the blue bird was never in the original Pooh stories. I don't know. And Christopher Robin, in human form, we don't see him or his mom's faces, But, yeah.
Just
Book
wait
of
until
Pooh,
we get to the later Pooh show on Playhouse Disney.
Oh, yes. Yeah, definitely. That I grew up with and watched, too. But we're going to get to that very later. So, Book of Pooh, the last things I have to say on Book of Pooh... Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know why I never watched this. I don't know, but I think I established it pretty well. Of course, yeah. And Winnie the Pooh being a big part of my life and childhood, yeah, so... and there you go. But I have listened to the songs, of course, and I had one of the, I think I still do, yeah, one of the CDs, soundtracks of collection of Playhouse Disney songs, and the Book of Pooh being one of those in that soundtrack. So, anyways, and yeah, it is on Disney Plus. The Book of Pooh is. So, anyways, so continuing on. Now that the Book of Pooh's been established, now comes the Wiggles.
Okay, here's what I have to say about the Wiggles. I remember
Wow.
watching the Wiggles, I remember
You guys
liking
go
the Wiggles, but here's the thing, I don't really remember...
You guys go first.
Yeah, here's the thing, I remember watching the Wiggles, I remember loving the Wiggles, but here's the thing, I don't really remember much from the Wiggles. It's much like Bear in the Big Blue House to my take on that, and my take on the doodlebops, which we'll discuss later. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't really talk much at length about Wiggles.
Michael?
When I was a kid, the show got me up and doing things, which is more than you could say about other shows at the time. When I was a kid, I liked doing the head, shoulder, knees, and toes part. I think at one point we had a CD with their songs, like the hot potato and stuff. But one thing I noticed, I'm only remembering this now, but one thing I didn't really notice back then, but kind of do now, is like sometimes their songs have like a religious kind of thing to them. Like they sang about Uncle Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
At one point.
And like say.
So it's like it's kind of like how do I say it? It's kind of like Mr. Rogers, not in the content, but in like the way they present religious like fundamental ideas. It's like they don't shove religion overtly in your face. It's just like, oh, here are some good things that good people do because, I don't know, that's what religion's about, I guess.
Yeah. Well, anyways, is that all you got to say about the Wiggles, Michael?
Yeah, and I have actually one more thing to say about the Wiggles. I remember this one song that stuck with me for a long time. It was a song about fruit and salad.
Yes, fruit salad, yummy, yummy.
Oh, the fruit salad song, yes!
Yeah, I remember that song, and that song kind of really stuck with me. Because and to this day, I think of that song whenever I read the word salad.
Right.
So, yeah, that's what I have to say about the Wiggles.
Yeah. Okay, so both of you had said what you had to say about the Wiggles?
Yep.
You too, Michael? Like, both of you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Alright.
I'm good too.
Now it comes to me. Boy, oh boy, where do I begin? Well, first off, I think Playhouse Disney introduced me to the Wiggles pretty much. In fact, I feel as though that Playhouse Disney introduced the U.S. audience, like America, to the Wiggles. Because, well, yeah, the Wiggles originating from Australia, of course. And I think, yeah, Playhouse Disney helped the Wiggles be more popular in, not just, say, Australia, but in the United States. And even, like, say, I think it was around 1998 when the Wiggles, like, there was a Disney TV special where the Wiggles were at Disneyland. Like, we would cut to, say, them, like, trying to look for Mickey Mouse, and Mickey, like, trying to make their way to Toontown to meet Mickey. But then we would cut to, say, them live at the Fantasyland Theater. And then later, the Wiggles would have their shows be on Playhouse Disney, like seasons 1, 2, and 3. I remember this too. Like, season 1 kind of started where, with, like, not just, like, they would have song numbers, but they would cut, then their segments would be, say, the Wiggle House, Captain Feathersword's Pirate Show, and Henry the Octopus. And then season 2, it was, the Wiggles World, and that was one of my favorites of their shows. And then in season 3, we would have Lights, Camera, Action, Wiggles. And then then season 4 and 5, it would be a bit different, and they would, like, say, be on the beach or, have a different version of Wiggle House. That's the best I can say. And we would, have segments with Captain Feathersword and his pirate crew and his pirate ship, and so on. And we would also have segments with the Little Wiggles, yada yada. And and so of course, with it being the first 4 original Wiggles, and then a little bit later on in the mid 2000s, and when the Wiggles were still on Playhouse Disney, this time we had Sam Wiggle, taking Greg's place. Nobody has anything to say on when Sam stepped in?
Wait, was he like the girl or something?
Okay, are you seeing the image? Like, this is Sam we're talking about.
The image is buffering for me. Hang on. Because I remember at, like, some point way later, there was a girl.
Right.
What's going on?
What happened?
There you go. We're good. We're good.
Did we get blocked?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Is it showing?
Internet dropped. But we're good now. We're back.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That was close.
All right. So how's it looking on my screen share?
Yeah, it looks great.
All right. So back to what we were saying. Like, nobody has anything to say on when Sam stepped in.
Yeah, I don't have anything to say about that.
I think it was at the point I was too old for Wiggles.
That was what now?
It might have been the point where I realized I was too old for Wiggles or something.
Okay. Well, yeah, but so when the Wiggles were still on Playhouse Disney, and when they had their next seasons, that's when Sam stepped in. But then a little bit later on, that's when the Wiggles stopped being on Playhouse Disney, and they just went their separate ways, both Wiggles and Disney, because for one reason is this, I think. I have to mention, Drake Dragonborn, because from the Improbables, because I told you before that I'm friends with him and I've talked to him a couple of times. I think he told me this, that the reason why they went their separate ways, what happened between the Wiggles and Disney, and with Wiggles being on Playhouse Disney, is because the Disney wanted their name kind of on the Wiggles, they wanted Mickey's. They want Mickey's symbol, his head, to be on Anthony's drums, and I don't know. That's what Paul told me. So yeah, but anyway, so it was a good time for the Wiggles being on Playhouse Disney. They did their job, and again, with special thanks to Playhouse Disney for introducing the Wiggles to the U.S. audience and making them more popular for American audiences, etc. So go ahead, Michael.
Right. I can understand it being edited or being pulled or some other stuff, because that's just the natural course of imports.
Yeah.
The Wiggles was British before it came here.
They're Australian.
And things are inevitably gonna get changed. Thompson Tank Engine, that got changed, but that's PBS again.
Yeah. The Wiggles are from Australia.
Well, I okay, whatever. Australian, British, they both start with a G. I don't care.
No, Australia starts with an A.
Yeah, Australia starts with an A.
Well, you gotta think in some way they both start with a G. Because British, Great Britain, Great starts with G, and Australians say G'day. G'day starts with G. There you go.
Okay. All right. With Wiggles been said, with Wiggles done and such, let's continue. Now, okay, to quickly mention this, sometimes Playhouse Disney would have a couple of hosts, when it would be commercial break, or say coming up next, they would have a couple of characters pop up, and one of them was Clay. I know that you guys have nothing to say about Clay, do you?
Well, I actually do have one thing to say about Clay. Yeah, I do. I remember Clay. I remember
Go ahead.
Clay because, ever so vaguely, but I don't really remember anything coming out of him. I remember Clay existing. I vaguely recognize the image you're showing on screen, but not really anything beyond that.
He's staring into your soul.
Yes,
Yeah.
he is.
He was
I'm sorry.
when I first saw Clay,
I was just being
I was
funny.
at that age. Yeah.
Go ahead.
When I first saw Clay, I was at the age, I was in that weird, ripe, in-between age where I was still young enough to enjoy the programming on Playhouse Disney, yet old enough to realize that this is just one of them childish, pandering, stupid character gimmicks.
Okay.
So I didn't like him.
Okay. But so I remember very well on the segments of Clay, including there were a couple of times where Clay would have a special guest with him, it was a piece of paper, I want to say. God, I can't remember that piece of paper's name, but anyways. And yeah, even say, oh man, during the good old days of the Playhouse Disney website, even Clay had his own place, in the website and games that he had. But anyways, and him changing into different versions, maybe, when it would come to a pig or animal, that kind of stuff, or say he would wear a hat, paper hat, and I remember seeing this, when it comes to the Wiggles, he would change to Captain Feathersword, Dorothy, Wags, and Henry the Octopus, so and so on. So yeah, Clay. So that's it on Clay. Continuing with the shows. Well, first off, there was another segment. Well, no, let's just. I'll talk about it later if I remember. Let's get back to the shows. Next, we have JoJo's Circus.
Yeah, I don't actually remember JoJo's Circus at all. I remember a commercial for it.
I remember it, but I don't really
the
care
show.
for it.
How many more shows are you gonna say where you've only seen promos and commercials? No offense.
A few. I mean, a few, because, like, those promos and commercials, came from, like, Disney DVDs of, like, Kim Possible and such.
Right, okay. Michael, you have nothing to say on JoJo?
Not really.
Alright, well, as for me, I loved watching JoJo's Circus as well. I remember a good batch of episodes, like, some that have to center on, well, JoJo, some would center on Goliath, other friends of JoJo from Skibo and Trilo, and so on. I remember playing the games that were on the website. I played those a lot. I played a lot of games on the Playhouse Disney website all the time. So yeah, Joe, and you know what? I tried looking this up. Like, I tried looking at behind the scenes, stuff like that. I don't know, but because it really shows that this looks like it was in stop motion. And I want to say it was, but I feel as though that I had a hard time trying to find behind the scenes material of this. But yeah, in fact, I remember when JoJo. There were a couple times when the Playhouse Disney characters were out at the parks, of course, specifically out in MGM Studios where they did meet and greets. I remember meeting JoJo and Goliath. My dad got home video of me meeting JoJo and Goliath. When I was a toddler. But anyways, and even say there was a small segment during commercial break with JoJo. It was exercising. I can't remember the title, but that's the best I can describe it. But JoJo's Circus, it was a great Playhouse Disney show for sure. All right, so next, that's it on JoJo's Circus. Next up, Higglytown Heroes.
Higglytown Heroes. I vaguely remember what this was. That's how I figured out what those Russian dolls were. But
yeah, Russian dolls.
Yeah, but I don't remember a single second of watching the show. I don't remember a single second. I do remember watching it, but I don't remember any scene or anything like that.
What about you, Michael?
I remember some of the repeating bits. Like the kids would be faced with a problem, and they try to solve it on their own. One of them comes up with an extravagant solution, and the squirrel just looks at the camera like, what a nub, and then just tells the kid why the idea doesn't make sense, and the kid's like, pickles. They do their own thing. Yeah. They get a little closer. They don't quite get it, and then they finally get real help from an adult or a Higglytown hero. Yeah.
Yep, and from say a firefighter, a mechanic, a carpenter, policeman, policewoman, librarian. I could go on. Just Higglytown Heroes. I had a lot of good time. I had good memories watching the show too, and from seeing the Halloween episode, or that one episode where it entirely centers on space and a time capsule going on the moon, and Fran the squirrel accidentally getting in the time capsule, falling asleep, and of course there's a Higglytown hero being an astronaut. Even during commercial break, where we would actually see in real life, heroes, from a carpenter, firefighter, mechanic, stuff like that. So yeah. But that's.
Is it weird that this show was the first show to get me conspiracy theory-ish going? Because every adult helps them out their problems and tells them they can grow up to one day become Higglytown heroes themselves. And because I was a kid and I just started getting into conspiracy theories, I was thinking to myself, if these are the Higglytown heroes, who are the Higglytown villains?
I never thought of that. Imagine if that did happen.
Yeah, imagine like they pose as like a Higglytown hero to help them out, so they immediately trust them. Then they reveal that they're secretly a Higglytown villain and tell them all to get in the van.
Yeah, I'm a Higglytown villain, evil and true. Like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, there were a few things I forgot to mention about Higglytown heroes. Like, oh yeah, there was Twinkle's Christmas wish and Santa Claus appearing. And and actually, fun fact about that episode: John Astin, aka Gomez Adams, was the voice of Santa Claus, while this elf named Pixel, I want to say, was voiced by John Astin's son, Sean Astin. And Sean Astin, fun fact, he would go on to voice another character, that would have his own show, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But yeah, so there was that, and that was cool. Father and son doing voices in, Higglytown Heroes. But anyway, okay. But that's about it for me on Higglytown Heroes. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, because I talked about the Christmas one. There was also one episode where it had to do with Bigfoot, Sasquatch. But there's that. Anyways, so continuing on. Higglytown Heroes has been talked about. Let's continue. Oh yeah, so Breakfast with Bear, as we talked about a bit early. After Bear in the Big Blue House had come to an end, the head of Playhouse Disney wanted to do a spin-off of Bear in the Big Blue House, and thus Breakfast with Bear was created, where Bear would go to kids' houses where the kids would wake up and start the day of what they're doing. I don't know. Like, first off, for me, I don't know. I can't remember if I did watch Breakfast with Bear. I don't know if I caught it on TV. I honestly don't know. But you know what? Episodes of Breakfast with Bear have made their way on YouTube. So, yeah, there's that. And you guys already said what you had to say on Breakfast with Bear?
Mm-hmm.
Yes or no? Both of you.
Yeah, I did.
Dissem? Oh, wait a minute. You kind of didn't have much to say, but that's okay. All right, let's...
Yeah, plus his internet's...
All right. And a couple of other segments, like, coming back to a couple of the, like, during commercial break, we would have, like, a couple of segments. Like, there was Captain Carlos, who eats, eating nutrition and healthy and, junk foods, greatest enemy, and Carlos's sister trying to get him to try, like snacks that, the labels are so pretty and there's a prize in one of them and they might not be good for you, blah, blah, blah. So there was that. You have nobody has anything to say on Captain Carlos?
I swear, like, that sister chick is, like, friggin', like, every time she tries to draw him in with the junk food, it feels like one of them friggin' Bible stories, like how evil will tempt you by looking so seductive and desirable, or some dumb shit like that.
But okay, do you have anything to say to Sam?
No.
Okay, well that's that on Captain Carlos. So another one during commercial break was Lou and Lou, or as she says, that's Louise. Safety Patrol.
Oh, anybody God, I remember this one. I actually remember going to school, elementary school, with a cone. Putting cones in random places like they would do. And I pretended to be like a Safety Patrol member or whatever. My God, I remember this one.
Okay, what about you, Michael? Michael?
I remember nothing.
Okay. I enjoyed watching Lou and Lou's Safety Patrol, and like talking to us, the audiences, and using the magnifying glass, and what's safe and not safe, blah blah blah, and they would keep running into Mr. Flitner, I guess that's his name, and yeah, it was that show was pretty good, and it was one of those during commercial break of Playhouse Disney. All right, back to the shows. Next is the Koala Brothers.
I actually do not remember what that is at all. I barely even recognize the picture. I don't even recognize the picture, practically.
I've seen commercials, but I don't know what they are.
Well, this is one of those from Australia, and yeah, I guess, it would also be on Playhouse Disney. Like, the Koala Brothers, like, they are here to help, and helping out others, and their names are Frank and Buster. Oh god, I can remember just a couple of other characters' names. Like, there was Archie, he was a crocodile, alligator, whatever. There was, I think, Mitzi, and there was Ned, George, he was a postman turtle, an ostrich who was an ice cream, selling ice cream with an ice cream truck. There was a kangaroo. Was there a platypus? No. I can't remember this other character's name. I vaguely remember some of their names. And there was also this one penguin as well. And in fact, I remember the Christmas special of the Koala Brothers, where they're bringing, I think the penguin's name is Penny. They're going and they go to where Penny is, far away into the Arctic, and bring her back to where they live for Christmas. I remember that very well. So yeah, in fact, being recorded on VHS, as I've been mentioning a couple of times. So but that's about it for me on the Koala Brothers, and I know for all of us. And it was one of those two that was stop motion, I'm pretty sure. And I guess I've tried my best to find stop motion, like behind the scenes material of that. But there's that on the Koala Brothers. Next up, okay, here we go. It's the Doodlebops.
Oh boy, I actually remember watching the show quite a bit, and I remember it being a very fun sort of musical show, but here's the thing, I don't really have that much to say about that once again, because, like, I could say that I did like the sort of music that they would do, but here's the thing, it's too kind of conflated with other shows on my mind for me to say distinct words on.
Right. Is it me, or is, like, the Doodlebops, like, trying to be a competitor with the Wiggles? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Because, like, they were too similar to other shows for me to remember distinctly, but I do remember watching the show and liking the show.
Yeah.
Right. You have nothing to say?
Yeah, this is another one of them licensed / imported properties, not really a native Disney thing. And, one thing I remember though is that this was like a early era of Doodlebops when they are in live action, as you see in the picture. But I distinctly remember on the local stations seeing like later Doodlebops stuff that is like all friggin' animated.
Yeah, I mean, I never saw that, but I of course saw this Doodlebops, live action, of course. I watched that a lot, the Doodlebops, and you know what? The Doodlebops, every episode of the Doodlebops are on YouTube, so... and it went through a couple of changes, the Doodlebops, and a few characters being in the show here and there, so... Yeah, like, there was a moose, there was a cat named Mudge, there was bus driver Bob, Maz to Jazz, there was Audio Murphy, there were these two talking... like heads, with fancy wigs, stuff like that. I say, what's that now?
Yeah, like the only thing I really remember was the bumpers at the time, like when they showed what was coming up next. Like for literally any other show, they'd show like a snippet or a clip it or whatever of like the show. Like you could see the characters, you could see what they're doing, whatever. But for the Doodlebops, they didn't have that. They just put the words "the Doodlebops" on the screen.
Yeah, and every time, in every single episode, they would always go to their concert, their show, and it's like, man, do they just where the Doodlebops live? Did they just have their main like stage show that they have constantly? Like, you get my point. But anyways. So I think that's about it on the doodlebops, what we have to say. Anyways, so now that the doodlebops have been said and done with, oh yeah, now we come to, well, this was during commercial break, and that's Dan Zanes himself.
I do not remember who that is at all.
Yeah, Dan Zanes and Friends. I know him very well. Like, I've listened to his songs, and I think, yeah, Playhouse Disney introduced Dan Zanes to me and my family. In fact, over at MGM Studios, or if it was called, I don't know, like, may have been still called MGM Studios, or maybe at that point it was now called Hollywood Studios. Maybe, I don't know. But one time, and my family and I were there coincidentally there at the perfect timing when we were on vacation at Disney. The perfect timing for this, we actually saw Dan Zanes live in person, like live, he was at I think it was in that building. First it was Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but then changed to American Idol. So in the American Idol building, he was performing there. That was really great, seeing him in person, and according to Dan Zanes, like him and his band, like they had been on many of the Disney rides, from Tower of Terror, Splash Mountain, and so on, and Father Goose showing up at the end of the show, et cetera, et cetera. And I take it that you guys probably do not know who Dan Zanes is, but I mean, that's the best I can say about Dan Zanes, and he's got so many great songs, and when he appeared on Playhouse Disney during commercial break,
He looks like if the guy from Beekman's World was coked out and tried to do his best Jim Carrey impression with a ukulele.
Oh, gosh. All right. Well, anyways, but that's about it on Dan Zanes. Well, some of the songs I remember, just very quickly, the songs I remember of Dan Zanes were Down in the Valley 2x2, All Around the Kitchen, Catch That Train, Multi, and and House Party Time. Yeah, so there you go. All right, but anyways, moving on. Now that we've talked about Dan Zanes, we now come to Charlie and Lola.
Oh boy, Charlie and Lola. I mean,
Pass.
it's similar with me and the doodlebops. I remember watching the show, I remember liking the show, but these days I just kind of conflate with Max and Ruby in my mind.
Okay.
So, I'm afraid if I were to talk any further about Charlie and Lola, I'd accidentally talk about Max and Ruby instead.
Yeah. You know that there's that, kids, network or something in the UK, it's called CBBS?
Yeah, CBBS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Charlie and Lola had been on there too, and I guess Playhouse Disney picked up that show, and I think, Playhouse Disney introduced Charlie and Lola for me too. Even my mom loved Charlie and Lola as well. God, I kind of still do, I had an entire collection of Charlie and Lola DVDs, and even some of the commercials, before the DVD would show up, the menu, those promos that would come up first, from Looney Tunes, Wiggles, bunch of Warner Brothers stuff. Yeah, but anyways, Charlie and Lola I had so many fond memories of, and I guess even at one time, every episode was on YouTube, but I guess, I don't know, the YouTube channel of Charlie and Lola just are blocking them for some reason. I don't know why, but who even knows. But I've had fond memories of Charlie and Lola, and even playing their games on the computer, on the Playhouse Disney website. They had some good games for sure, Storybook Interactive or Dress Up. I could go on. Even there was a maze game, etc. But anyways, I think we've said everything we could say on Charlie and Lola. Let's continue. Oh yeah, taking a break from the shows, and now we come to this because I wanted to, because we were going to save this for later, and because it was brought up first with Bear in the Big Blue House, with Bear being, succeeding in the parks and having a live tour, at malls. Disney bought it, according to Noel McNeil in his interview with Defunct Land. According to Noel McNeil, Disney bought it when, you know what, Bear was working successfully, you know, when having mall tours, and Disney bought it, and thus they had a live Bear in the Big Blue House show at one of their sound stages in MGM Studios. First, it was Bear in the Big Blue House live, and then, according to Neil McNeil, that's when Disney thought, you know what, we've got a lot of other shows on Playhouse Disney. Instead of having them have their own shows, why don't we fit them in the Bear show? And thus, we would get Playhouse Disney live on stage. First, it would start with, of course, well, you know, Bear in the Big Blue House would be the opening of the show, and then it would be an intro and an outro, and you know, Tutter the mouse would be the main part of the show, like, you know, from being shy and telling these stories to help him feel better. It would be Roly Poly Oly, Stanley, the Book of Pooh, and for a while, when it was still, say, Bear, Stanley, and Book of Pooh, Jojo Circus took Roly Poly Oly's place. And then, a couple years later, it would be changed. Playhouse Disney Live on Stage would be changed a little bit. With, you know, when Bear stopped airing, that's when Mickey Mouse Clubhouse took its place, and a couple of other shows came in as well, from Handy Manny, Little Einsteins, My Friends Tigger and Pooh, and then later on, you know, changing to Disney Junior Live, and a bunch of other characters, you know, coming in and out, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know you guys have nothing to say on Playhouse Disney / Disney Junior Live on Stage, but of course I do, because according to my parents, it was one of the big things for me. Like when we would go to Disney World, and when we would go to MGM, now to Hollywood Studios, we would always do the Playhouse Disney Live on Stage show, and I have good memory of it from seeing Bear on stage, Luna showing up, Roly Poly Oly, I could go on, and when it would change to Disney Junior Live on Stage, etc., etc. So there's that on, you know, Playhouse Disney / Disney Junior Live, and yeah, because even like the outside entrance of the show's changing, you know, from this to that. I mean, really, because when you look at, say, the entrance to Playhouse Disney Live on Stage, it looks amazing. But as for this, like, oh god, I don't know. If you know what I mean, just, you know.
Yeah, I actually don't, because here's the thing, like, Playhouse Disney's entrance, it looks 90s, but here's the thing, like, I can see how it looks slightly more industrial than the Playhouse Disney one, but I don't really see any significant difference in quality between the two entrances. At all.
Yeah, so... Alright, but anyways, continuing. Now we come to Little Einsteins. We're now back to the shows.
Oh.
Now we come to Little Einsteins.
Oh
I know that you and me have a lot to say about the show.
Oh god, I have so much to say about Little Einsteins. Oh shit.
You go first. You go first by all means.
Alright. Little Einsteins was one of those shows that I discovered when I got a DVD of Our Huge Adventure. It was when I was like 6 years old. I know, kind of late, but I watched it, and oh god, this was amazing. Like, I was being taken on this classical adventure with, like, music and paintings and everything. Like, and I remember really liking that. So I got into Little Einsteins, and there you go. I liked the show, and even then, I actually remember this toy, like this giant toy that we got from a Disney store of Rocket. And
yes!
God damn it, my stupid fan. Yeah, I remember this one that we got from the Disney store. It had the handle on the bottom, and depending on to go fast or slow, it would be like fast, allegro, like slow. I already forgot the term.
Well, I had a toy like of Rocket. Like, it was a big toy of Rocket, and it had all the kids with it. You could place them inside Rocket.
Me too.
Oh, okay, so it's the same toy, basically, that you got?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same toy.
Okay.
And I actually remember, I was so obsessed with the show to the point where we still have a Christmas ornament of me as a kid. We still have that Christmas ornament to this day.
Oh, cool. That's nice. And I think we still...
And yet, This show's actually not the reason I'm into classical music today. That was The Last Starfighter and its soundtrack. Little Einsteins taught me that classical music was important, but I kind of forgot it until I discovered The Last Starfighter soundtrack, and then I discovered classical music, rediscovered it later on.
Yeah, me too. Like, Little Einsteins, I think it's obvious. Little Einsteins introduced younger viewers, like younger kids, classical music and the artwork that was in each episode.
Yeah, and looking back now, it's kind of weird, almost kind of cursed in a way. Like, just take a screenshot from the show on Twitter, and they'd be like, "Oh God, this is cursed." But but from the nostalgia factor, it is charming on some level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that about it for you?
Yeah, that's about it for me.
Yeah. As for me, well, Decem, I think you established it pretty well on Little Einsteins. For me, to put it this, I loved this show. I grew up with it. I watched it all the time. I was obsessed with it too. And, I remember a good chunk of episodes from, when it comes to the Little Einsteins helping animals or like anything that just be random, I guess. Like the ring, from Saturn, or
I remember that. I remember they would go to Oklahoma and it's some cave that they had there.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was just gonna say. Well, I was just gonna say, like, there was the ring Saturn. There was
I remember that.
There was Little Dragon. There was. I think this was one of their first episodes. It was a caterpillar, then a butterfly. There was a little mouse wanting to give the moon a present, and then there was a Christmas episode. There was a Halloween episode. There was Annie's little purple toy plane, and one time there was an episode where Leo's baton got snatched by an eagle, mistaken for a stick. And there was one where balloons get flown away, one where Rocket misses his whale friend. Like, they would go under the sea a couple of times, and there was like a couple of times when they would run into Big Jet. And when, like, later on the show, like, there were a few upgrades with Rocket. Well, like, Allegro, Presto, or he would transform into like a train or a submarine. Yada yada yada. Just but continue to send. Back to you.
Yeah, I remember a few of the episodes that you talked about. Like, I actually confirmed that the Caterpillar, the Bulletfly one, that was like Our Huge Adventure. That was the very first Little Einstein stand that came out. It was on DVD. And that was how I originally got into the show.
Yeah, I have that DVD too. Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, and I love how well done that DVD was. Like,
and another one too that I've had too, and if you would know about this too. This was another big adventure, the Firebird.
Oh, I think I remember the Firebird one, but I don't remember much of it. Like, I didn't watch it over and over like the other episodes that I had on DVD.
Like, Rocket wants to save the Firebird, and there's this ogre named Catch-Eye who hates music and has Firebird locked up in a cage, and Catch-Eye stopping Rocket and the Little Einsteins with his magic, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
there's that. Like,
I vaguely,
how to put it.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that, but that's kind of way too repressed on my memory to retrieve right now. Sorry.
Yeah, like Catch-Eye was this like Russian doll, So.
Oh, I remember now.
Yep. And including there was an episode where the Little Einsteins shrink. They're small.
Oh yeah, like I remember that being one of my favorite shrinking episodes. And of course, that would be different now since I'm kind of older, but I remember that episode being pretty fun.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, like they run into like a bumblebee, like, and they meet the ant queen. They're stuck in a clock.
Oh god, I remember
blah blah blah.
that.
And there's one with a baby chimp and a bunch of other animals later on in other episodes, and I could go on, but yeah, and Little Einsteins being on Disney Plus as well, another one of those Playhouse Disney shows that are on Disney Plus as well. But anyways, so do you think we've pretty much covered everything on Little Einsteins?
Not yet. I actually do want to remember that one point the
Okay,
show
good.
became a Vine
Go ahead.
meme. Like, remember the theme song and how it became, like, this giant Vine meme, and I actually... And I want to talk about the theme song for a second, because...
I know, I think I know what you mean. Just to quickly say, I think I know what you're talking about. The Little Einsteins theme song would become a meme, like, 3, 2, 1, we're going, like, it would become like a rap song or something.
Yeah, I got a trap remix, and it became a giant viral meme on Vine or whatever. And here's the thing, though, like, listening to the Little Einstein theme song on its own, it's legit straight up a great classical song. Like, I can listen to it on its own. Like, and it's actually a very good, like, it's up there with, like, what John Williams has put out. Like, straight up.
Right.
Put out, like, I'm talking about, like, the instrumentals. Obviously, the lyrics are a meme, but, like, the music, though, like, the original music that was composed for the show, it was very well done. Like, jeez.
Yeah.
Like, John Williams was a bit of an exaggeration, but you know what I'm talking about.
Like, what do you mean by John Williams? Like, what?
Forget I said that. That was an exaggeration. I was talking about quality. I was talking about quality.
Not involved, like.
Yeah, he was not involved. I was talking about I was talking about in terms of quality, because what I'm trying to say was Little Einstein's singing song. It was very well done, and God, is it underrated as a piece of music.
Right.
So, go ahead. I think that's all I have to say.
And I think that's all I have to say too on Little Einsteins. So there's that on Little Einsteins. Okay, continuing on. Up next, so Johnny and the Sprites. It first started off having, like, during commercial break they would have their segments. Again during commercial break, but then then Johnny and the Sprites would have a full-time show. Nothing to say on the show on this?
Nothing to say. Affirmative.
Michael? Okay, Michael?
He's probably doing something.
Okay, so I'll take...
Giant... Oh, where are we on? Oh, I don't know this one.
Okay. Alright, but... Well, yeah, Michael, just be sure, like, just keep an eye out, like, for what we talk about, so, and if you have anything to say, so, you too, Sam, just to be sure. So, Johnny and the Sprites, well, okay, well, so I guess it's just going to be me, like, talking about Johnny and the Sprites. Well, okay, as I said, Johnny and the Sprites, first off, it started off having, like, segments during commercial break. And it first started with, Basil and Ginger. Basil is the one with glasses and is yellow and green. Ginger is the pink, the bright pinkish one. So they were the only two sprites that we saw. And then when Johnny and the Sprites had his full-time show, and I remember seeing the promos for this, and we were introduced to two new sprites. There was Lily and Root, and there was another character that did appear in the segments. Like, there were the little fur balls, I don't know what they were called, but there was also what was it? Was it a mole? I want to say. I think it was a mole. The mole. Oh yeah, it was a mole because of its nose. There was a mole named Seymour who was very dark, pinkish, and I remember that one segment where Seymour loves lettuce and leave a little lettuce, blah blah blah. There was that, and during the segments, there would be a next door neighbor named Miss Moldy Stooge, and I think Johnny played Miss Moldy Stooge. I don't know, but what in the name of Vincent? Whatever she says is going on. Keep it down. Blah blah blah. But anyways, so for the show itself, it was actually pretty good. I had a good time watching the show, including according to the theme song, it was okay. With this theme song, it was extended a little bit for the show, and with some new words, and another new sprite, would be the old grand sprite, the wisest sprite named Sage, and this the extended words to the theme song are nobody else sees us, it's true, there's only Johnny and that means you. Johnny's the only one that sees the sprites, and us, the viewers who are watching the show, we see the sprites too. But whenever, say, somebody shows up to Johnny's house, like from Johnny's sister or a friend of Johnny's shows up, they don't see the sprites. But that is for the case of one of Johnny's friends that does eventually see the sprites. When accidentally she turns into a rabbit, just the ears and I think the whiskers and teeth. So yeah, but when she's back to normal, like they they get her back to normal, like she does see the sprites. So she's now new to this and like seeing the sprites and knowing the sprites, blah blah blah. And there's Grotto's Grove and so on, so on. And some of the episodes I remember where Johnny loved playing this video game and he's getting distracted by it and he should really like not play the game all the time, but just be outside and play with the sprites, play games outside that you would do. Then there was one where Seymour the mole would be this detective, like Johnny's melons in his garden are disappearing, and Mole becomes a detective, figuring out who stole them. And when they stay outside, and they sleep outside, so they would catch the one who steals the melons. It's Seymour who steals the melons, and he's sleepwalking. Yeah, so I remember a couple of episodes here and there of the show, like one episode like Johnny is sick, one episode Lily's hair grows. Lily's the one that's blue. Her hair is blue. And there in one episode her hair grows longer. Then there was one episode where Root, I think, like sneezes and Root kind of talked like this, and he's the one with the red like big bushy hair that you see in the corner. So that's Root. So he had that kind of voice that I'm kind of imitating. It was that kind of voice. Like, you look at, say, Meatwad from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. You look at Gizmo, the Mugwai. They all had that kind of voice, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, so I think that's about it for me on Johnny and the Sprites. So, continuing. Oh, yes, and, okay, just like, say, with Clay, other characters that we would get during commercial break, and they would also be like, coming up next, blah, blah, blah. But they kind of had their segment too on Playhouse Disney before, like, say, they would become those characters during commercial break, telling you what's next or blah, blah, blah. And that is Ooh and Ah. I think, boy, which one's Ooh and Ah? I'm trying to figure that out. I don't know, to be honest. I think Ah is the red monkey, while Ooh is the blue monkey. I honestly don't know, but nobody has anything to say on these two monkeys? Nobody? Anybody? No? Hello? Nobody? Okay. All right. Well, I guess it's just me. Ooh and Ah were these two monkeys that they did have their own segments. They had their segments. First, they had their segments like their own little show during commercial break, but then they would become those characters like during commercial break, like they would be an intro for when Playhouse Disney would come on in the morning, and when it would be time to go from Playhouse Disney to Disney Channel, they would be the outro. Ooh ooh ah ah, bye bye, blah blah blah. Yeah, Ooh and Ah, they were okay, and yeah, they were pretty funny. So there's that. Hey, just to be sure, are you guys still there? Am I still on the call? Like,
Yeah, I'm still here, and I want to say something about Ooh and Ah first. Ooh and Ah.
I asked. Wait a minute. First off, I asked both you and Michael if you had anything to say on Ooh and Ah. No response.
Yeah, here's the thing. I was doing something. I was AFK.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Just saying.
The thing about here's what I have to say about Ooh and Ah. Ooh and Ah.
Okay, go ahead.
Was basically these were basically the last hosts for Playhouse Disney before it became Disney Junior, and I remember them being pretty fun. I especially remember how they had their jingle for Playhouse Disney, like Playhouse Disney. I actually remember that very well.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it was the Imagination Movers singing that actually, because we got the full song of it.
Ooh.
Yeah. It wasn't Una singing it, but yeah. And to what you said, Sam, they were the last toast of Playhouse Disney.
Yeah, they were the last hosts of Playhouse. Yeah, they were the last hosts of Playhouse Disney.
The last what? What are you saying?
Yeah, they were the last hosts of Playhouse Disney before it became Disney Junior. Ooh and Ah were the last hosts of Playhouse Disney.
Oh, hosts. God, I didn't really. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't understand it at first. The last hosts of Playhouse Disney. Right. So yes, you are right. They were the last ones before Playhouse Disney became Disney Junior.
Yeah.
Right. So
I think that's all I have to say.
Yeah, and same for me. So I think back to the shows. Yeah. Okay. So during when Playhouse Disney was still Playhouse Disney, we would get, say, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Yes.
I don't know if you got. Do you guys have anything to say on Mickey Mouse Clubhouse? Like, I'll let you guys go first.
Yeah, I actually remember Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. I do remember liking it vaguely. I watched a few episodes, but that was like right before I kind of grew out of preschool shows, quote unquote. So like then this was how I got introduced to a few classic Disney characters. I knew them before through like educational DVDs, but this was the first time I got to see them as fully fledged characters.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. Michael, you have nothing to say on Mickey Mouse Clubhouse? Just to be sure.
I kind of remember it. It's like how do I word this? It's like it's a kid's show, and that's all I remember it. Like I remember the stuff like the Mouse-Tools and all that, but like other than that, like the Mouse-Tools and the hot dog, and a couple of the songs.
Right.
Like, other than that, I don't really remember much because there's not really much of substance to this.
Yeah, like there was the songs, like there was It's the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and there was Hot Dog, Hot Diggity Dog, and then like the Mouse-Tools song, and yeah, and so on. But if you guys are done, like I'll go ahead and say what I have to say about the show.
Go ahead.
Okay. So now me. I loved watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. I remember a good batch of episodes, and even like say when we got, Pete, we got Ludwig von Drake, we got Clarabelle Cow, a bunch of other characters appearing. Some pretty good episodes, and there was a Christmas episode, there was a Halloween episode. I remember this too. I got and I even got the DVD of this. There was the Easter one, and the Easter party one, and basically like in that one, like Pete accidentally like says the wrong magic words, causing the clubhouse to come apart and disappear, in different locations. And also, I forgot to mention this. Like even like say we got Willie the Giant as well. And and rest in peace, because the current voice of Willie the Giant, I forget his name, but he had passed away not too long ago. But the big time, Disney legend, I want to say, like, and especially for when it came to voice acting. But anyways, and there's so much I can say about Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. There is a lot. Like, well, for one thing, for the Mouse-Tools, like, well, there was Toodles, who would be the aid of, spawning the Mouse-Tools. Like, there would be a change to Toodles. Like, later on, Toodles would then start to talk, and he would have a face. And Paul Rudd, it's Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd would be the... No, wait. No. It's Rob. Like, I met Rob Paulson. God, I got names mixed up, sorry. Rob Paulson would be the voice of Toodles, aka Yakko, Pinky, so much more, and even voicing the Ninja Turtles. Rob Paulson would be the voice of Toodles, it's obvious. Yeah, it is him. Also, trying to remember. There was, like, okay, they had a couple of, like, close to 1 hour, like, they were long, like, maybe up to 44 minutes, I don't know. But like there was one say where there was like a race and Toodles would at times be sad. Like what? There was this one vehicle that Goofy was using. It was like a machine or whatever the heck it was called, and it would do the help while like Toodles would help too. But it's like Toodle feels like left out and sad and like he's forgotten. But it's not true. It's one of those moments. Which yeah, that stuff. But anyways, so and there would be, I guess, a few changes to the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Even when say, I think one or two new shows would come along, like kind of in the same style as to what Mickey Mouse Clubhouse had with the animation, the look of the characters. Like there was one say racing or something like that, and even like say the Three Caballeros appearing. But you might know what I'm talking about, but anyways, but I think I've pretty much said everything I had to say on Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. So continuing, now we've come to Handy Manny.
Oh boy.
So anybody on what they have to say on Handy Manny?
Oh boy, I have a bit to say about Handy Manny, but here's the thing.
Oh, yes.
It would
Go
be,
ahead.
There's this really weird incident involving the show that involved an interruption, but it's NSFW, so I don't think I'll discuss it here. You can look it up if you want.
Oh my...
Okay.
Like, I'll look it up later. What the frick? But, like, now you're just making me more curious. What do I remember about this show? I remember it had a Christmas special.
Yes.
But apart from that, I do remember the basic format. They're a repair shop. You break it, we fix it. And
Yes.
I do too.
and he's like people like to compare him to Bob the Builder, but I think Handy Manny wins because like he's bilingual.
Yeah, like a big deal about the show was that it taught kids Spanish, kind of like Dora did, where it had that for ocho cinco ocho nueve that like they would count like the tools in the toolbox.
Less annoying and more practical. That's what this was.
Yeah, basically.
Yep. Even need I say, Robot Chicken did a parody like they did that, where Bob the Builder versus Handy Manny.
Even Mad did that.
Oh, I don't think I've seen Mad's version of that. Well, let's face it, Mad was Cartoon Network's version of Robot Chicken, like kind of kid friendly.
Yeah, like this, like I could say this is superior not only because it's an actual Disney show and not like a redubbed British show like Bob the Builder was, but it's also instead of just dealing with tools in the construction yard, you're dealing with tools in your toolbox, and you also learn a bit of Spanish. So yeah, and this kind of like gives emphasis more on the like community. I think you see all these people and in the community and what they do, and he's helping them out and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, Decem, what is it again that you don't want to mention, but we'll have to look up?
Yeah, there was this weird incident involving the show that involved it getting interrupted by porn on Disney Channel.
Yes! I think I know that story. Like, I think I saw it on...
Oh, God.
Maybe I saw it on YouTube, but something like that I heard.
Yeah, but long story short, Handy Manny got interrupted by porn on some cable system, and Disney had to apologize. It's pretty funny, you have to look it up.
How the heck did that even happen?
I had no clue.
I think it was like a wire getting crossed due to a confusion, because I think at the time, don't quote me, I think this was still Playhouse Disney at the time, not Disney Junior, and Playhouse Disney got interrupted by Playboy TV. They both start with Play, so it might be some kind of clerical thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But anyways, So I guess that, well, for me on Handy Mandy, I loved Handy Mandy as well, and all the tools, and some guest stars, like, well, Fred Willard appeared a couple of times. Tom Kenny was one of the main cast members of the show, voicing Mr. Lopart, and there was Kelly, and there was Manny's family members. I'm trying to remember, like, it had some pretty good episodes, like, trying to get something inside of a house, or say painting up in the inside of a building. I guess it was for the kids. And there was an episode where, oh yeah, because when new tools stepped in, Flicker the flashlight. So there was that. There was Flicker, and even the theme, when the song got changed up a bit, where it was uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, ocho, duende, because Flicker was now part of the
Yes.
tools.
The only times there were, like, apart from that, the song was changed like 2 other times on to separate occasions. Like there was one before. They were both before Flicker. One was one of the tools went missing, and the others had to look for him. So he was like uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete. And then there's one where it's like where they're teaming up with Santa Claus, and they count. And then there's one where they team up with Santa Claus, and they count all the way to 10. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, ocho, nueve, diez.
Wow. Well, I know which
I think
one.
I think it was after the Flicker. Actually.
I don't remember. I do not remember the one with Santa, but I know which one you're talking about when one of the tools goes missing, and that's Pat the Hammer.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's that. And there was I think Handy Mandy might have had 1 or 2 like long hour TV specials. There was one where they're on a motorbike adventure, I guess, to meet up with Manny's family. But at one point, Pat, Squeeze, and that has the green handles, that's her, and Flicker, the 3 of them get separated from Manny and the tools. And I think, for one thing, like, Pat wants to meet, I guess, an idol of his, but it's not, I guess, his hammer idol's not real. That's the best I can remember. But there was that, and I remember one episode where they have to fix a movie theater, and the tools are acting out, like putting on a show for the people at the theater while it's being fixed up and such. But anyways, I had good memories watching this show. Not to mention the voice of Manny was the same guy who was on That 70s Show, and he would make his way to NCIS as one of the recurring characters. So there's that. I think we pretty much. No, go ahead.
There's also a spin-off show. I don't know if that's on your list. The School for Tools.
Well, I mean, I don't have the image, but yeah, I mean, well, with the exception of this Handy Manny, like, showing up on screen, yeah, I mean, Handy Manny's School for Tools, I vaguely remember that, and now that you brought it up, I remember the theme song, Handy Manny's School for Tools. I remember that theme. I remember that song.
Yeah. Yeah, basically these were shorts for Manny to explain, like, how the different tools work, which I think is very practical for kids wanting to learn how to build things or fix things.
True, yeah. But anyways, so there's that on Handy Manny and School for Tools. Next. And that, of course, being My Friends Tigger and Pooh. This was the Winnie the Pooh show that I watched.
Me too.
Because again, I don't know why, but I never watched the Book of Pooh. But this one, My Friends Tigger and Pooh, I did for sure. But if you want to go first, Decem, go ahead.
Yeah, here's my thoughts on My Friends Tigger and Pooh. My Friends Tigger and Pooh was another one of those shows that I liked watching, and I was actually confused why Christopher Robin wasn't there. Instead, we get Dorothy.
I mean, Christopher Robin did appear a couple of times, but of course, Darby being the main human being there.
Yeah, I actually don't remember Christopher Robin in the show ever, so if you can so be kind, what did Christopher Robin actually look like in the show?
Well, I mean, because of how the look of this animation is, like, Christopher Robin, like, almost looked like how he's supposed to look, you know?
Let me look it up. Christopher Robin, my Instagram. Oh! Actually, they actually did the design pretty well.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty interesting. So,
well,
I guess
same goes for all the other Pooh characters.
Yeah, especially Pooh himself. So, I think that's all I have to say about my friend Tigger and Pooh.
Okay. Well, okay, so as for me, I watched the show definitely, and not to mention because, well, this also, this also had, say, Lumpy the Heffalump appearing as well, because especially after the two Disney Toon Winnie the Pooh films, Pooh's Heffalump movie and Pooh's Heffalump Halloween movie, Lumpy came in, and Lumpy appearing on My Friends Tigger and Pooh, but not just him, like we also got Darby, Christopher Robin's little sister, and the dog Buster. And they were this Darby, Pooh, Tigger, and Buster, the dog. They were the super sleuths and like helping out those in the 100-acre wood. And yeah, we of course had Piglet, Rabbit, Kangaroo, and as I said, yeah, Lumpy. We also had Eeyore. But I'm a bit surprised that, okay, where the heck was Owl? Like, how dare you leave out Owl? Just, in fact, there were a few times where he was left out of, in a couple of the direct, like, Pooh films, you know, Disney Toon Studios. That, God. But, yeah, he was in Piglet's big movie, but not like, say, Pooh's Heffalump movie or Pooh's Heffalump Halloween movie. Where was Owl the whole time, and where was Gopher? Blah. I don't know. But other characters that were introduced in the show, like there was a porcupine who was blind and like had to wear glasses. There was a turtle, as I recall, being voiced by Mark Hamill. I think there was, maybe I've seen the Halloween episode, but I do remember seeing this. I even have the DVD. There was the Super Sleuth Christmas movie, where they find a baby reindeer and like and along with her, it's Santa's magical bag, and they have to go to the North Pole to return it, and so on. I remember that very well, and yeah, and even like say when jumping back to Playhouse Disney Live on Stage, like My Friends Tigger and Pooh being one of the story segments as well, and I think they reused the Pooh and Tigger puppet from the Book of Pooh segment. Yeah, I think it's obvious, but anyways, some episodes that I can remember just to quickly go through. There was one where, well, Eeyore's tail is missing. Piglet is afraid of this like dark cave, like that's down below or something. Pooh having a sleepover, not Pooh, Lumpy having a sleepover, Tigger having the hiccups, Tigger thinks, you know, Tigger thinks that he itched Rabbit because he overheard Rabbit, thinking that, well, maybe Rabbit was talking to Tigger, I don't know. But really it was Rabbit's itchy pajama shirt, I want to say, or sweater, I guess so. What else? Rude wanting to give a gift to his mother Kanga, and a couple of times where, well, Christopher Robin would show up, and one episode where they think that Christopher Robin turned into a frog, and one episode where, as I mentioned, the porcupine and turtle, like the porcupine is afraid to give the turtle a hug because, well, the porcupine's a porcupine. So, anyways, but. Yeah, I think I pretty much covered everything on what I had to say about My Friends Tigger and Pooh. All right, and I think you guys did too. So anyways, let's continue. Oh yeah, and jumping back to the segments, you know, during commercial break, there was Choo Choo Soul.
Oh boy, Choo Choo Soul. This was how we learned what a bullet train was.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I remember this. I remember that. I remember
Right.
the song, and I didn't. That's what I remember from these segments, but I don't really remember much otherwise.
Now, what was it like? You were beatboxing or something like? What was it like?
Yeah, I was
Like,
trying to describe the beat of the Bullet Train song from what I learned Bullet Trains were, but
That-
otherwise I
that's not
don't.
how
Yeah, sing it.
it goes. Like, I think it goes like this, like just like bullet train, so fast.
Yeah,
I think that's how it goes.
yeah, I remember. Like again, this is like the very tail end of when I stopped watching preschool shows.
Right. But some of the other songs I remember, like there was the one where they're counting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there was one it's called the Blue Zoo Train. Then there was one about, little birdie, come on.
Yeah,
flashing
those
lights.
ones I don't remember. Like I only remember the Bullet Train one. Besides, I don't really remember the show that much at all otherwise.
Okay. But other songs that they did later on, there were a few changes, like different wardrobe changes for the two characters. Like in some songs that they would do, like they would actually do a couple of songs from Disney movies. Like I only remember Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and there was Under the Sea. That was it. But yeah, and need I say, both the two of them, Genevieve and what's his face, they're on TikTok as well.
Nice.
Yep. So there you go. Yeah, and I follow them. So, anyways, so that's that on Choo Choo Soul. I guarantee. Yeah, Michael has nothing to say on Choo Choo Soul, but we'll continue. Anyways, okay, now back to the shows. Imagination Movers.
Oh boy, I remember a few things from the show. I remember this. I especially remember the villain of this episode. This was how I figured out that beige was boring. If you know the villain of the show, like he's supposed to be the super kind of beige person, like a boring kind of character.
What villain? Oh, is this Nidnots you're talking about?
Yeah, I believe so.
He's not a villain.
Boring. I'm talking about like this beige type character that's not real. That's like super boring. That's what I remember from the show.
Okay, but if you're talking about Nidnots was not a villain at all.
Yeah, like I said, this is like the tail end of when I stopped watching preschool shows. Like, this is when I stopped watching social shows, and it was kind of a tail end, so I don't really remember much. Like, once we get to Disney Junior, that's when my nostalgia completely stops, and that's where my total ignorance begins. So, once you get to Disney Junior, I won't say anything.
Yeah, me neither. Like, some of the shows I'll have things to say, but, like, later on shows of Disney Junior, not so much. But anyways, on Imagination Movers, I enjoyed watching this, definitely. And every episode, like, the purpose of this was, well, they figure out an idea, like, it's an idea emergency, and they figure out a problem, and, they have a problem, but they figure it out. And as they say, their outro song. Like, some episodes that I can remember, like, one episode is about, well, there was a mouse, called Warehouse Mouse. He has to go to the dentist and check his teeth, but he's too afraid to do it. There's one where, let me see. Yeah, they have to figure out there's this noise that they keep hearing, and it turns out that it's Uncle Nidnots playing a tuba. And then there's one where, like, their TV is not working, and they call in somebody to fix their TV, but he's afraid of Warehouse Mouse, but then realizes that there's nothing wrong with Warehouse Mouse, and his fear of mice is no longer. There's one where I think a relative of Nidnots, who speaks in a different language, and the Imagination Movers can't really understand at first, but of course they figure out that he's looking for Nidnots. And then there's one of, say, I guess, basketball player, a monster named Eddie, a chef, Goldilocks, let me see. I think there was like Princess and the Frog kind of thing, Jack and the Beanstalk kind of episode, two dancers and a superhero, a pirate, and when the warehouse, one episode where the warehouse is being expected, and one where they think that Nina, is going to be leaving the Imagination Movers and going to Hawaii, because Nina has her own business, but and have her business also be in her home, Hawaii. And I think that was technically the last episode of Imagination Movers. And you know what? Because Imagination Movers, it's on Disney Plus as well. And you know what? I actually had watched it a couple of times, and yeah. So, but anyways, even I remember seeing this on TV. The Imagination Movers live on stage, and they had a TV airing of that. On Playhouse Disney. That was really cool. But anyways. So I think that's about it for Imagination Movers. All right, continuing. Next, we have Special Agent Oso. And Sean Astin being the voice of Special Agent Oso, which I kind of teased when we were on Higglytown Heroes. But yeah, now we've come to Special Agent Oso.
Alright, so this is the point where basically my nostalgia ends and my total ignorance begins. So, this show, I vaguely remember this show. I remember it being kind of fun, but here's the thing. That's, like I said, that's basically where my nostalgia ends for preschool shows. So, take it away from here, because I'm not going to say anything after this. So, there you go. I think this is one of the first shows that aired on Disney Junior after the rebrand. So, yeah.
No Special Agent.
I remember one thing and one thing only. The one thing I remember about this show in particular is they tried to. They weren't just advertising it for the Playhouse Disney Junior block. They were advertising it on the main block because of the wolf guy that says outstanding. This happens to be the same guy that plays Mr. Mosby on the Sweet Life stuff.
Yep, that's him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Alright, so that's all I have to say about Special Agent Oso and for this episode for that matter. So I won't say anything more. Just tell me when to end the stream, guys.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess that's it for Decem. Now it's just me and Michael. But to reply to Decem on this, well, no, Special Agent Oso was on the air when Playhouse Disney was still Playhouse Disney. So there you go. But Special Agent Oso, I enjoyed watching this too, and the plot of this, well, even in the theme song, as the theme song goes, he's on a special assignment to help a kid somewhere. Like when a kid's having a problem with something, if they don't know how to do this or that, then Oso would come in to the rescue. And like on Oso's jacket named Paw Pilot, and there would be Mr. Dose on his watch. And there would be, of course, the wolf. And Wolfie was the name of that wolf. And Dottie. What animal is Dottie? Is she a fox or something? I want to say she's a fox. Then later,
The fox.
you had to. Well, anyways, there would also be a talking train, and I forget the train's name, but there would also be Whirlybird, this talking like bird helicopter with a beak, and later on, another animal character would step in. It would be Bufo. I think that's the name of him, Bufo. He was a water buffalo, I want to say. He was a buffalo. Yeah. Everybody's got a water buffalo. Like, it's just a buffalo. Blech. I got VeggieTales. I got that stuck in my head. Water buffalo. Anyways, yes. And, like, some episodes that I can remember, like, Oso helping a kid brush his teeth, do a kid trying to figure out a puzzle, one kid trying to clean dishes and stuff like that at the sink, a kid trying to learn how to snap their fingers, one where a kid riding a merry-go-round, one kid learning how to play piano, and in that episode, the kid's grandfather, as I recall, was voiced by in that episode, and the grandfather being voiced by Mel Brooks. And there was an episode where Oso went to the library to pick up a book for a kid because the kid unable to be there. And an episode, boy, what else was there? Well, another character I forgot to mention, like whenever a kid would be in trouble and can't figure out what to do, like this like little ladybug robot would see this and alert, and thus it would be transferred to Oso, special alert, blah blah blah. Um, and yeah, so and I remember the Christmas special, and I remember where I think Oso had graduated something, and it would be like the last time that him and Paul Pilot would work together. So, yeah. But that's all I gotta say about Special Agent Oso. Oh yeah, and there was that one episode of Special Agent Oso where it was a crossover. You had Oso and Handy Manny. I don't think I saw the.
That was a thing.
Yes, it was a thing. It happened.
Oh my goodness.
Yep, it happened. But anyways, but I think that's about it for me on Oso. Did you say your part on Oso, Michael?
Other than the Mosby plug, just looking at this picture now, I can imagine like it being one of the shows people will point to when they like, oh, what got you interested in the furry fandom? Alongside stuff like Zootopia and Disney's Robin Hood.
And Chicken Little.
Moving on.
Yeah. Okay, so that's that on Oso. But oh yeah, there was that like spin-off kind of, but it was during commercial break. It was 3 Healthy Steps. Yeah, I vaguely remember that. I mean, I know how it goes, but still, like the kids would be live action and so on. But anyways, but continuing on, now comes now comes another puppet show, and that's Bunnytown.
I got none on this one, sorry.
I don't know if Decem does either, but
Well,
one thing.
fine. Okay, I'll say one thing. I remember this ice cream game on DisneyChannel.com.
Yeah.
About this one. And I remember having a lot of fun with that game, but I don't really remember watching the show. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, well, as I recall, I think Bunnytown was created by the same people who did. I think it's obvious because when you look at the design of these puppets, of these rabbits, created by the same people who did Jack's Big Music Show. When you look at the design of those puppets in Jack's Big Music Show and Bunnytown, there's a resemblance. They're like the same kind of looking puppets. You know what I mean? Just yeah. Imagine, if we did have those rabbits appearing in Jack's Big Music Show. Oh, they're in the same universe. Well, anyways, but Bunnytown, yeah, even David Rudman, one of the main Muppeteers now, been a long time Muppeteer of Cookie Monster, taking Frank Oz's place and doing Scooter, Janice, many of the puppets done by Muppets being performed by Richard Hunt. Just, yeah. And he was the voice of Jack in Jack's Big Music Show. And when it came to Bunnytown, like he was one of the Muppeteers, puppeteers, I should say, for Bunnytown. But yeah, they would have a bunch of segments, like a couple of live action segments, like these 2 funny guys in bowler hats doing funny stuff and a piano playing. One and another live action segment where it would be Super Silly Sports. A rock and roll bunnies and Super Bunny or Super Rabbit, whatever. A bunny in space. Yeah. I really have nothing much to say on Bunnytown. I think I pretty much established it pretty much right there. But on the Playhouse Disney website, yeah, and as Decem mentioned, yeah, that ice cream game, I remember playing that. There was also a couple of others that I played. Like I remember, like there was one of Super Bunny. There was one of I think decorating a bunny's house. There was that. But yeah, so that's about it for me on Bunnytown. All right, so next is another segment during commercial break, and it's Tasty Time with Zefronk. Uh, has anybody got anything to say on this one?
I think I remember this one. It was I think I remember the format. Like the dog wants to cook something. He always washes his hands first, and
Yep.
he has like the little bird helping him.
Right.
And then there's the cat that always tries to steal it.
Yep. Tom. That I think Dom or Tom. That's the name of the cat. And yeah. So I remember that too. It was actually pretty good. And I think yeah, Rob Paulson voiced Zefronk as well. I can't remember who voiced Tom. I don't know, but yeah, Zefronk was pretty good. Next was another segment, during commercial break, and that was "Can you teach my alligator manners?"
I seen a little bit of this one, but I don't remember anything.
Okay, like basically like teaching, like Mikey, the little boy, like the human boy, teaching his pet alligator Al, manners. That's basically the plot of the episode of the show. So like is the blue screen or the green screen right? Like the blue screen is right or the red screen is right. Blah blah blah.
Everything's right. Everything's correct. Like we can see all the proper colors. Like we can see his hair. We can see the croco. We can see the background. We can see the everything.
Now what?
We can see the crocodile.
We got it.
We got it basically. We can see the alligator. We can see the background. We can see the hair. We can see the everything.
Yeah.
I'm talking about what?
Yeah, we don't.
Like if you're asking, like if you thought I was asking, like if you're seeing, if the image can be seen, my screen share. That's not what I was talking about.
What were you talking about?
I was talking about the show. Can you teach my alligator manners? Where in that, Mikey is telling us, the viewers, can you please teach my alligator manners? In which square is right? The blue square?
Yeah, like I said, like I said, my nostalgia for Playhouse Disney ended right about here, so I'm not really going to say anything beyond this point.
Okay. But anyways. But I think I pretty much established it right there on "Can you teach my alligator manners?" And yeah. I think Michael did too, because you said that you remember this one.
Yeah, I mean a little bit. I remember the concept and I remember it coming up, but I don't remember like what's in the episodes. But now that you brought up like the squares and the fact that the kid is talking to the camera, I am getting strong Dora the Explorer vibes.
Well, yeah, I mean every show had that. So, we're, breaking the fourth wall, of course, and talking to us, watching on TV. But anyways. So that's that on "Can you teach my alligator manners?" Wait a second. Like, okay, before we get back to the shows, I want to talk about a couple others that I didn't like. I guess I didn't have time to add to this. Like, does anybody remember when I say these names? Oh boy, let me see. Oh yeah, first off, Happy Harry Monster Band.
I remember the name, but not much of it.
They were like these monsters, the way they looked, like very like shapes. That was basically how they looked. Like, I don't know, like that's the best I can describe. And they would have their own songs. Just that's the best I can remember and to describe on the show to put at it. Oh yes, and I almost forgot about this one. Anybody remember Go Baby?
No.
I do. Like even Richard Kind was the voice of the adult. Like all that we get of the adult is the hands, Oh, hi there. Say hi to baby. Oh man, I remember that very well. And it was one of those things where, you know what? Taking live pictures of babies and making them move. Like that's the best I can describe, It was interesting, and even like a butterfly would pop up, and there was another like baby that would show up a bit later in Go Baby. It was like little girl baby named Sophie, but yeah, and like say bye to baby, Bye, thanks for helping. What would baby do without you? Oh man. And good God, there was one episode of Go Baby. Again, this was during commercial break and when these segments would come up, and Go Baby being one of them. Good God, there was one episode of Go Baby where the babies, they were in frickin' outer space.
Why? Why,
I
baby
know, right?
space?
And the human and the adult, again, being voiced by Richard Kind, was out in space. Well, we don't see the face, but we could assume that got some space helmet on. I don't know. Oh, jeez.
Unless he's God.
Don't go too far.
Uh,
anyways,
uh.
but so there's that on Go Baby. Oh yes, and here's another one that I'm almost forgetting. Does anybody remember, say, Daniel Cook and Emily Young?
I remember a little bit of Daniel Cook, but mostly because one of my Canadian friends reminded me of his existence.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so Daniel Cook and Emily Young, they would be doing this stuff, I don't know, like from, say, swimming, police officers, firefighters, amusement park, the Blue Men, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember the theme songs, this is Daniel Cook on a bike, we'll have lots of fun with Daniel Cook or with Emily Young, blah, 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 and sometimes we would
Uh,
see the image would be still, and it would blur, and we would see words that would say, and we would hear their voices like saying, this is Daniel Cook, insert whatever it is, blah blah blah, so, or this is Emily Young, blah blah blah, you name it.
Like the one I remember most vividly, thanks to my Canadian friend, is Daniel Cook learning to swim, because unlike the other episodes where you're supposed to be expected that he's having fun doing the things, when he was swimming, he was freaking out. He was crying for help.
I don't think I really remember that one. But I do remember, say, like, there was one. I remember some of these very well. I think he like met a poetry writer or something, and there was another one that I remember very well that had to do with police officers, and another one where it had to do with firefighters. So yeah, there's that, and I think there was another one that had to do with bees. I think too. That was with Daniel Cook. Others with, say, Emily Young. The ones with Emily Young were, say, the Blue Men, amusement park. I think making a smoothie, probably that's what it was. And what else? I think that's about it. And boy, like, I actually, God, I have to mention this. If you've seen my videos on the Little Blue channel, if you've seen my puppet videos, because I don't know if because with Mordecai the Wacky Vampire, like, he did a video giving his thoughts on Daniel Cook and Emily Young. So, but with the help of a couple of other puppet friends. So yeah, Mordecai the Wacky Vampire did that for sure. Hello, YRC, I'm stepping in, so making a cameo.
Oh, jeez.
Hello, Michael, how are you doing?
Hello, I am fine. How are you?
Yes, I'm just dropping in because, he just happened to mention me, but that's okay. I'll let my boss, Eli, continue. Anyways, so thank you, Mordecai. Anyways, so that's that on Daniel Cook and Emily Young. So I'm trying to remember what else there was, like, during commercial break of, well, there was say, like, where is Warehouse Mouse? Like, Warehouse Mouse from the Imagination Movers had his own, like, segments, like his own kind of like segments on during commercial break of Playhouse Disney. There was that. But anyways, but there's that. So that's all I can think of. Let's continue. Back to the shows. Now we come to Jungle Junction. Got nothing?
Nope.
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 Okay. And I guarantee you Decem doesn't either. But anyways, Jungle Junction was an interesting show. Like, it was animals, like, I guess, into, like, they were cars, basically. I mean, all I can say is, I mean, I kind of enjoyed watching this too, and I remember a little bit of the songs. I remember a little bit of the characters, and and what was going on in the show. Just yeah, it was interesting. I think there was this one frog who was a bit of a grouch, and like the three main characters you see in this picture. So they were the main characters. And one of them, I forget what kind of animal he is, but he has hands. He would be well known in the show for putting signs all around the jungle and on the roads. But anyways, in fact, there was other animals. I remember there was a cow who was a bulldozer or whatever he was, like a scooper kind of. And there was one where a toucan was a police officer, and there was a crocodile who was a fireman. But that's all I've got to say about Jungle Junction. So let's continue. Oh yes, and now we've come to Chuggington. If anybody wouldn't here's one thing that I'll say, it's like the Thomas the Tank Engine ripoff.
It looks like one, but
Yeah.
I never seen it, so I'll just pass again.
Yeah, I've just seen maybe one or two episodes. Like, I vaguely remember watching this, but I've got nothing really to say on Chuggington. I think we're up to that point where we kind of don't have that much to say on what would come next, but Chuggington, I'm sure it was fine. It had its audiences, and whether you would want to call it, say, a Thomas ripoff, who knows? Anyways, then next we have Babar and the Adventures of Badoo. Now this
I've never seen this, but I am aware of what Babar is because I've seen Babar in somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, one of Babar's movies, I remember Playhouse Disney did screen it. They did have it on one time. I remember seeing it one time on Playhouse Disney. But Babar and the Adventures of Badoo, I remember watching it a little bit. But I really have nothing much to say on this show, other that I watched a little bit of it, and of course for it being screened by Playhouse Disney on their network, all that kind of stuff, you name it. But that's that. Next, oh yes, I have a good amount of portion to say about this, and that is, of course, Jake and the Neverland Pirates.
Oh, I've never seen a full episode, but I've seen previews for it all the freaking time. And I had no idea what it was even about until they started working on that one special where they actually put Peter Pan in this one.
Oh yeah. Twice actually. The second
the one I remember is Peter Pan lost his shadow, and because he has no shadow, he can't fly. That's literally the only one I remember.
Yeah, that was the first time he appeared on Jake and the Neverland Pirates. Then the other time he appeared was, we also had London being in there as well, and we had Wendy, John, and Michael, and Nana appearing as well. Okay, but also I remember I did watch Jake and the Neverland Pirates a good amount of times, and sometimes Hook would steal things and never give them back. And I remember one episode he steals a starfish. The starfish was with a mermaid, and there was one where Hook lost his hat. Jake and the crew find it, and they return it to Captain Hook. And a couple of times when we would see Captain Hook's mother, voiced by Ozzy Osbourne's wife, I should say, that it's her.
Sharon.
What's that now?
Sharon Osbourne, I think her name was.
Correct.
And what was it? Peter Pan's wait, did you say Peter's mother or Captain Hook's mother?
Captain Hook's mother. Captain Hook's mother being voiced by Sharon Osbourne.
Is she as evil as Captain Hook is, or is she the only thing that's not evil?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, maybe not really evil or anything like that, Besides, this is Jake and the Neverland Pirates we're talking about, and for preschoolers, for younger viewers.
Yeah, every evil thing has to be something mundane and silly, like a school bully, or a dog catcher, or a gay person.
I was just gonna say Captain Hook. Ever since like Peter Pan and so on, like Captain Hook's always been. He is a villain, but in a way he's clumsy and funny.
So, school bully.
Yeah, and especially because we had TikTok Croc appearing a couple of times, and not to mention we would have these two singing pirates that would be Captain Hook's crew, and every time, like before the episode would end, we would cut to a song number, and it would be those two pirates in live action. So there are a few songs there are a few songs I remember from them. Like most notably, I remember there's a song where they sing about lava. Don't touch the ground, 'cause it's hot, hot lava. You can't even go on your tippy toes. I remember that very well. But and there was another one too, like Captain Hook is a blah, something something. An odd fish caught fish. He's blah, blah. I think that's the best I can remember of that one. What's the pirate password, mateys? Yo ho ho. That's another one. And he swam away from a crocodile. Crocodile, crocodile. I could go on, but yeah, I think that's about all the songs I remember. Oh, including one later on that was down in the bubbly blue underwater. That too. But anyways, and also like, oh yeah, because you had Corey Burton voicing Captain Hook, and what's his face who voiced Mr. Smee, and God, what's his name who voiced the parrot Scully? Like he was from the Scream movies, and he was from Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Him. So, anyways, but I think that's about it on Jake and the Neverland Pirates. With one more thing, like as I recall, the late Cameron Boyce, who would go on to be best known in Jesse as Luke, he was one of the first voices of Jake. So there's that. Anyways, so with that out of the way, Jake and the Neverland Pirates, we come to like say Doc McStuffins. I vaguely watched this show.
I'm aware of its existence. Don't really remember much of it. I'm a pass again.
Me too, kind of. But all I know is this: that Doc McStuffins is a doctor for toys, and giving them checkups, all that kind of stuff, and making them better, and so on. That's about all I can remember. And next we have Sophia the First.
Again, don't really remember much of it. Know the name, pass.
Yeah, as for me, like the only few things I have to say about this one is, well, like Sophia is a princess, and we get to see appearances of other Disney princesses appearing. Like I think there's Ariel, there's Mulan. I think Merida showed up one time. Belle did as well. Cinderella, Aurora, and like there's this like evil wizard, named Cedric, and he's being voiced by Jess Harnell. Hello, Nuss. Best known for being the voice of Wacko Warner and Crash Bandicoot, etc. So he's the voice of Cedric. But sometimes, Sophia would call him Mr. Seeger, but it's Cedric. So there's that. Yeah, I never really watched this, but I know this like that. I think it's the Bluebird. Yeah, the Bluebird is voiced by Ashley Eckstein, who best known for being the voice of Ahsoka Tano. So, anyways, next we have the Lion Guard.
All I know about it is that it picks up from the lineage of the Lion King movies, and that my ex-friend Chris loved it very much, wanted to get everything on DVD, couldn't find everything, but I know nothing about this. I'm a pass again.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think this is kind of interesting. I honestly think that, this is the kind of show that, God, I don't know. Like, I think maybe adults can watch this too, because I don't know, like, this is in the world of the Lion King, and if they want to have this be serious, then, stuff like that. But it's very interesting, and not to mention, like, we get, say, the ghosts of Mufasa and Scar. That's really cool. We find out how Scar got his scar. We see Zira, Nuka, Fatani, and young Kovu and Kiara, and like the only cast member to return. Well, there's two. The voice of Nuka, and most notably, of course, Ernie Sabel continuously voicing Pumbaa. Yeah, if only Nathan Lane could Nathan Nathan Lane, if only he could have ever like maybe guest starred and voiced Timon just a few times on this show. Like at any point, like he could have been available and voiced Timon. I'm just saying, because you have him and Ernie Sabel voicing the two lovable characters of the Lion King, Timon and Pumbaa. But anyways, whoa, crap. Jeez. Sorry. Anyways, I kind of almost dropped my phone. But anyways, so the Lion Guard, it seems interesting, and yeah, and it has its audience. But anyways, um, continuing, and next we have. I really don't have that much to say about this one, but Elena, the of Availer, if I'm saying that right. Yeah, I know that Michael, you have nothing to say on this one. Neither do I, but as far as I can tell, yeah, Elena is another Disney princess, and maybe she and Sophia cross paths. I don't know. But, anyways, then there's Vampirina. Not much to say on this one. All that I can say is, well, we have like a vampire, like kiddie show on Disney Junior. Yeah, so there you go. Others that I can think of are, say, there's let me see. What else just to quickly mention, like a few runner-ups. God, there was one. Oh yeah, there was the Octonauts. I think I said that right. Yeah, like these animals that are underwater and like helping like undersea creatures, and stuff like that. And every time an episode would end, you know, they would have a song number, just kind of. It's like, creature report, creature report. But anyways, and then there was a couple of others, like, looking at like the thumbnail, of course, like there was this monster, as you can see, and there was Tinga Tails and these pajama superhero kids, and oh yeah, and this seemed kind of interesting, but of course, no, I never watched it. And it's Tomorrowland, like it has to do something with Tomorrowland. As I recall, Mark Hamill was one of the did some voices, I guess, for that show. Like maybe was one of the main voiced cast members. I don't know really, but yep. So boy, I think we pretty much well. And did I mention? Yeah, there was that one other Mickey Mouse show where it was all about racing. There was that, but anyways, I think that pretty much is it for that's pretty much all we've said about Playhouse Disney / Disney Junior. And if anybody has any last words, you start first. I'll be last. You go. Okay, you first, Michael.
Wait, when did we talk about? Did we skip Muppet Babies? Because I don't remember us talking about Muppet Babies.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, what do we have to say? Okay, but before we have our last words, what do we have to say about Muppet Babies?
Muppet Babies. Okay. There was the old Muppet Babies, which came out around the time Jim Henson was still around.
Well, yeah, in the early 80s.
That one, yes.
And it was right after. It was right after.
I think you can find out.
What?
I think I don't know if it's true, but I think you can still find old Muppet Babies on Disney Plus. I don't know if they backed them up. I think they did.
I don't think so. No.
Huh.
Yeah.
But
I was just
like Muppet Babies by itself. Go ahead.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I was just going to say Muppet Babies, the original Muppet Babies, it debuted shortly after, just I think a couple of months. It was a couple of months after Muppets Take Manhattan came out, and that in Muppets Take Manhattan, we had a segment of the Muppets as babies. So
that was the backdoor pilot.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
The thing about Muppet Babies, on its own, it was okay because like they were the Muppets and they were babies and they went on the usual child-friendly imagination shenanigans and stuff. And sometimes they stretched it to the limit, like they'll go on like an Indiana Jones like adventure, and then you see clips from the actual Indiana Jones interspliced with the Muppet Baby stuff.
And there would be, say, Star Trek,
Um,
Ghostbusters, Star Wars, you name it.
Am I the only one that remembers the bit known as the 25,000 dollhouse pyramid?
I'm not sure if I know that one.
Basically, it was a game show bit where like there was essentially playing a $25,000 pyramid to win Miss Piggy a new dollhouse.
Okay.
Uh,
Is this from the from the old one or the new one?
yeah, the old one.
Okay. But what do we have to say still on the new version?
The new one, much like the old one, stands well on its own, and thank goodness this new one doesn't have like any other things tying it down, like Little Muppet Monsters or some stupid crap. But the like apart from it being more of the same and being harmless entertainment, it was the subject of controversy at one point because of the tale of Gonzorella.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, basically they needed a princess for the ball. Gonzo wanted to wear a dress, so Gonzo became Gonzorella and wore the dress for the ball. He said that's what he wanted to do. And they were accepting it, and they accepted him for who he was because he's a whatever. We don't know anything about him. This feels normal to him. We'll just live with it because he's being himself and it's great. Unfortunately, the right wing. I hate getting political, but the right wing media came out and decried this episode as transgender propaganda
And
or indoctrination.
LGBTQ.
Yes, like it's like friggin' you can be LGBT and be in a kid show. It's fine. Like I don't mind representation. There's nothing wrong with the episode. I just hate when people like to pretend that everything's wrong with the episode because of the LGBT stuff.
Yeah. And as I recall, I think, Muppet Babies did come to an end. I'm pretty sure in the last episode they had was in homage to the Muppet Show. So, and their nanny, like they had a nanny as well. Dr. Teeth showed up one time. We saw Dr. Teeth like on screen or something. And other Muppet Babies we saw from Sweetums, Rizzo the Rat, I think Pepe, and so much more. But just, anyways, but is that all we got to say about Muppet Babies?
Yeah, I got nothing else.
All right. So I think that's about it for what we've talked about. So now we've come to the last words. Who wants to go first? Any last words?
Okay, I don't really have any last words about Playhouse Disney / Disney Junior, but here is the thing. Like, Playhouse Disney / Disney Junior, in my opinion, was the more memorable of the preschool blocks. Like, Nick Jr. was clearly worse than this. By the way, we're not doing a SmackDown on Nick Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so...
No, thank you.
Yeah, we are not. And, it was kind of weird to have this be a topic for SmackDown, but for what it was, I think it worked pretty well.
Like, I think this was a fun thing to talk about because, it's like one of the few things, like, no matter where you are in the world, in your childhood and stuff, like, even if you were a PBS person, eventually at one point you came across this, and you loved it as a child, and I think that's what one phase we all went through. It's like friggin'... It's like we're all divided now because of political and social differences, but this was at a time when we were all kids, and what did we do when we were all kids? We were all learning, we were all discovering, we were all coloring, painting, using our imaginations, and with Disney, like, it seemed like they could do no wrong, and I think for like 90% of the Playhouse Disney stuff, they could do no wrong.
Yep. So those were your last words, Michael?
Yeah.
Okay. And Decem, you had your last words. And very quickly, because before I begin, there was another one we forgot to mention. There was Shane and his sister Shanna. They had their own shows. I can't really remember I don't really know how to describe what they did, but anyways. But now let's come to my last words. Well, I gotta say, Playhouse Disney was a big part of my childhood. I loved what was on Playhouse Disney, some of the good old shows, from Bear to Roly Poly Stanley, Winnie the Pooh stuff, Out of the Box, Charlie Lola, The Wiggles, I could go on. And when Disney Junior stepped in, you know what, because what was on Disney Junior a bit early, because, around, I want to say, 2011, that's when Playhouse Disney then turned to Disney Junior, and what was on Playhouse Disney still aired on Disney Junior and such, but of course when we got more new shows, but that was when we got a new channel for Disney Junior, which was Disney Junior the channel. Basically, I think they were airing every show that was on Playhouse Disney and Disney Junior and such, like Roly Poly was being re-aired. I think Jojo Circus, Stanley. I don't know on, say, Bear or Out of the Box, maybe, but if they didn't, then I really wish they would have. Come on, guys. And I think PB&J Otter was re-aired as well, too. I mean, that's the best I can remember. But, Playhouse Disney, I loved when it was Playhouse Disney and the shows we got, back then. And the fun games and such they had on their websites, amazing. I had so many good memories playing their games. And from going to Playhouse Disney live on stage at Disney World, just fun memories. And again, when it came to Disney Junior, I had a pretty good time with what was on Disney Junior and going to Disney Junior live on stage and the games that they had on there. But still, I don't know. And there's one thing that I heard about, maybe Playhouse Disney was coming back, it was now being named Playhouse Disney again last year, but I don't know. I saw it on Google, but I really don't know how to describe it, but that's all I got to say on that. But, but in closing, for me, Playhouse Disney will have a very special place in my heart with the shows that I loved watching. And again, as I said, there were a few shows on that aired on Playhouse Disney that Playhouse Disney introduced me to, from The Wiggles to Charlie and Lola. Yeah, so there you go. And even when I first got to know The Wiggles, my parents were like, "Who are these guys?" But I just, for me, according to them, they told me that I just loved the guys. I just loved the Wiggles, and it's all thanks to Playhouse Disney. But again, Playhouse Disney will have a very special place in my heart from the good old days. The amazing shows that they had. Nothing like, say, what we have today. What Bear in the Big Blue House had, Out of the Box. I could go on, but that's it for me. And this was a lot of fun to do. I think the SmackDown of Playhouse Disney / Disney Junior really turned out great, and it was a lot of fun. And until something like this happens again.
All right. Next SmackDown we're gonna be
keep on the lookout.
Yeah, next SmackDown we're gonna be doing the rest of DC besides Batman. And
Yep.
on Raw, I actually wanted to do the Raw game requester, since I got that working now.
You want to do it now, or you want to wait till we actually start this next one, or?
Let's do let's do it right now. We might as well do it right now.
Yes. I don't know if you watch Raw, but we have requested for videos to react to and games to play, and you are going to see the new game requester for the first time exclusively here.
So
it's not going to look like
more time.
It's going to look exactly like the old one.
So should I go ahead and close my screen share?
At least it'll work. Yeah, please close
So
it.
that's that on my screen share.
Alright. Give him a minute.
It's still a work in progress, so it still says 4.0, but I'll have it finished by this Raw.
Let's see the first roll on this new thing. She had a false
Plays Luna games.
Oh, God! Oh God! The Luna games, those are My Little Pony creepypasta games. And I say use a virtual machine because it does things with the computer files and the registry and stuff that you don't want to risk your real computer on.
Yeah, will it work on XP or Vista?
I think so. I'll have to look it up on the wiki.
Because if it does, I'll just use XP.
Let me just make sure. Hold on. Not Luna games on Amazon. Fuck off. Okay, just looking, see if there's any compatibilities to do. Luna game. Okay, yes, I know what all the games are. Hush up. Where is the creepy pasta? Where is the, let's see, quotes, trivia, derivative works. Well, I'm not seeing anything about compatibility issues, so I'm just going to drop the link to the wiki entry where you can learn a bit about them, and you're on your own with finding the games outside of that.
Alrighty,
But unless you ever re-roll it.
Okay, so this is basically what I'm gonna do for next Raw. And, Streamfest is a ways away still, so look forward to all those, and